You didn't need a security clearance to figure out who benefited from malicious Russian cyberactivity. The president-elect didn't call it into question. He called on Russia to hack his opponent. He called on Russia to hack Secretary Clinton. So he certainly had a pretty good sense of whose side this activity was coming down on. The last several weeks of the election were focused on a discussion of emails that had been hacked and leaked by the Russians. These were emails from the DNC and John Podesta, not from the RNC and Steve Bannon. It was the president-elect who, over the course of the campaign, indicated that he thought that President Putin was a strong leader. It was the president-elect who indicated the potential that he would withdraw from some of our critically important NATO commitments. It was the president-elect who refused to disclose his financial connections to Russia. It was the president-elect who hired a campaign chairman with extensive, lucrative, personal financial ties to Russia. It was the president-elect who had a national security advisor on the campaign that had been a paid contributor to RT, the Russian propaganda outlet. The president-elect's team, his campaign, didn't make any effort to obscure this. So all of that is information that was not obtained through intelligence channels. It's not information that was disclosed for the first time at the White House. It's all information that all of you reported on. It's information that all of you reported on well in advance of the election. And it's all information that is, as far as I can tell, undisputed. So I think what it does, it probably leads people to a variety of conclusions. One conclusion that it leads me to is the special responsibility that members of Congress have to take a close look at this. Particularly those members of Congress that endorsed Mr. Trump in the election. They were aware of all this information too, not because they were getting classified briefings, because it was available to the public. So I think in some cases, we've seen some pretty heated rhetoric from Republicans wringing their hands about this and about the potential impact it has on our national security and the integrity of our system of government. I think they should spare us the hand-wringing and fulfill their basic responsibility, considering the bar's been raised based on their political choices.
But with everything that you just laid out, President-elect Trump has disputed the idea that Russia favored him or that Russia was behind or interfering, meddling in the election. I mean, he says that no one knows what's going on. So, I mean, you basically laid out a case that that's not the case.
Well,
and just going on what you just said, doesn't that cast a cloud over this election? I mean, everything that you just laid out, saying that this was clearly done to favor President-elect Trump?
Well, a couple of things here. The first is the conclusion about Russia's involvement in malicious cyber activity to undermine confidence in our political system represents the consensus view of the intelligence community. There's no disagreement about that. And that's the reason that they came forward with that extraordinary statement a month before the election. So there certainly should be no dispute about that. And the material that I cited, again, is not information that you're hearing from me for the first time. This is information that all of you have reported on, thoroughly investigated, and discussed on television. So there's no, again, I'm no debate I'm seeking here. As I have done in the past, tried to just lay out some objective facts. The debate, the argument about the policy differences and the differences in agendas pursued by the President-elect and President Obama, we had an opportunity to have that debate, and that was the subject of an extensive debate. And the election didn't turn out the way that we had hoped. And since then, I've gone to great lengths to try to avoid getting into a debate with the President-elect's team, because our priority is on fulfilling the President's basic institutional responsibilities to effect a smooth transition to the next presidency. So what I've stated is not an argument, but really just a presentation of objective facts about what all of you and the American public knew in advance of the election. And yes, this was all material that was known by Republican politicians in the Congress that endorsed the President-elect. And how they reconcile their political strategy and their patriotism is something they're going to have to explain.
One more topic.